In this video, we're going to talk about targeted individuals, both the spiritual aspect and covering some of what I experienced. So welcome to the channel. My name is Celine. If you're new here, it's nice to have you. I am a mental health therapist and a spiritual mentor, and you can find out more about me at the website oldsoulawakenings.com. And if you need to contact me, details are in the description. So in this video, I have been asked to do a special on targeted individuals. This is also to go hand in hand with the last video, I believe it was, that I did on Dark Night of the Soul. So basically they wanted a video on the Dark Night of the Soul, but based on the targeted individual aspect and how that kind of works. So I think it's quite a good one, really. It's one I hadn't thought about doing myself. I was a bit unsure, really, of where I would kind of take this. But yeah, it fits quite well. So let's begin. So a targeted individual can basically be anyone. Sometimes we can be born into it, like such as SRA, into cults and things like that, mind control. Some of us are sold into it at some point along the line. Like our parents, for example, might get caught with pornography. That's quite a common one. And to lessen the sentence, which also explains why there's so many short sentences for paedophiles. It's because actually they tell them, we'll give you a short sentence if you join us and sell your children into the network, whether that be the mind control or trafficking or whatever that might be. And they have recruited a lot of members doing it that way. There are lots of stories out there all across the world. So we become targeted that way because obviously they need to keep an eye on us, especially as we get older. If we're still being used when we're older as well, then of course we're going to have handlers like I did, and you know, all that kind of goes on. So we're targeted. So in my instance, although what seemed on the outside, and especially to me, because I had no idea what was going on until I kind of had an awakening really to it all in 2019. So to me, it was quite a normal experience. I was married, I had 4 children. Yes, he was a narcissist, you know, but a lot of us deal with that kind of situation really, or we can do. You know, so that's not terribly uncommon. I didn't even know what a narcissist was at the time. That was the first thing I kind of found out about and learned about, really. And that's kind of what helped me really to progress to where I am now, I suppose, and starting to remember my memories. So in that instance, I was kind of, you know, just led a normal life. But I did have lots of things occur. Lots of gang stalking is what it's known as, like people suddenly turning against you. It could be not neighbours, could even be your own friend group, can even be partners. And you don't know why, and they never tell you why, what the reason is, but they suddenly turn and you're kind of targeted from that point forward. I've had this follow me my entire life. I had no idea why. I remember the first time I was about 13 and I'd started kind of seeing this boy. And I remember he walked up to the top of the park one day and come back down. Literally only been a couple of minutes. And from that day forward, even if I see him, or when I used to, when I still lived in the Isle of Man, even if I saw him, he'd still blank me. He wouldn't speak to me. And all I got out of him that night was that someone had said something to him, warned him to keep away from me. He wouldn't say who it was. He wouldn't say exactly what was said. And, you know, I lost a friend there. So that kind of happened. I used to get targeted in town. I'd be walking down the street and people would kind of show abuse at me. No idea why. Never, you know, never really bothered these people. I just put it down to bullying really growing up. So kind of digressed a bit there. I haven't planned this one out. I was kind of just winging it. So yeah, there's another way you can be targeted. That's where I was going with that one. So another one is Rh negative blood. If you look that up in relation to spirituality, you will see that a lot of us are targeted because we have this Rh negative bloodline, and it's seen as a lot of us do have psychic gifts and things like that that carry this bloodline, and it seems to be something that really interests the dark side, I guess you could call them, and so we can become targeted for that one. If we get too close to the truth, we can become targeted, and really it can just happen like anything can. You could feel like you're a completely normal person, living your life, and then suddenly you're thrown into this world. You've got helicopters flying over your head, neighbors are doing things that for no reason at all, parking outside your house. It's bizarre really to think about, but it's horrific to go through. I seem to be relatively okay now. I am targeted spiritually. That can also happen. So I receive a lot of spiritual attack. So sometimes if I haven't made a video for maybe a week or two, it's because I'm dealing with that spiritual attack and having to work through it. And that can be quite intense. I do keep my address well hidden. I do not have any contact with anybody that was even closely related to anything to do with my past life. I think that does help in that aspect. I have mentioned this to clients previously when they've come to me and they've said that they've moved state or they've even moved country, yet they're still targeted within a couple of weeks everywhere they move. But the problem was with this instance, they were still talking to family members. The family members can then inform, and it can either directly or it just gets passed down the line. And so, these people in other states and countries and things are then made aware, photographs are shared, they then know who you are, and then they take over the process. A lot of them are paid to do it. Some of them are just soulless, like agents, which is kind of like the Matrix philosophy, kind of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's important to be really careful. Don't let it scare you. As much as it is scary, try not to isolate that as really what they want. Obviously, you want to keep speaking your truth and getting this out there as public as possible, but you also want to do that within the limits of your limits. Like, if you know that if you say something without a shadow of a doubt, it's going to put you in serious danger, then obviously you don't overstep that line. But you need to share enough that you're public, that you're out there, because actually that's what they don't want. They give us this fear because of the silencing aspect of it. The more we're silent, the more they get away with. And that's what the whole point is. I know with things like when they wipe my memory of certain things they didn't want me to remember, I've now realised looking back that actually those things that I've put out there to normal people, they've not been able to wipe from my memory, because then those normal people are going to start asking questions, because, if they're having a conversation with you that they had yesterday and you have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, it's going to start raising suspicions. So, they do have to play the game as well, although it doesn't seem like it. That's where the fear comes in again. And this is why I'm starting to focus more now on kind of narcissists and bringing everything down, especially within the SRA community and with the handlers we've had to deal with, because it seems so immense. But when you can pull it down to that one thing, you're dealing with that one aspect, it makes it a lot easier to understand and then empower yourself, because that's what you need the most to get through this, is empowerment. So in relation to the spiritual awakening, we are having a human experience, but we were also having a spiritual experience that runs alongside. Now, we're not always aware of the spiritual. That's where the awakening part comes in. We then become aware normally more of the spiritual aspect and how things work. And, you know, we can kind of work through things that way, which is how I've done it. Initially, I did think, when everything started going wrong in my life and I lost my 4 children, although I knew it was down to my narcissistic ex, I also put it down to a spiritual awakening and a dark night of the soul, because it did trigger that, because of everything I went through, because of that trauma. It triggers you into the dark night of the soul. Now, the problem is with people with mind control, that kicks off our suicide altar. So we kind of have to work through the suicide altar, even though a lot of the times we don't actually want to do it. We don't know where this kind of feeling is coming from, and this constant do it in our heads. You know, we might think of family or children and we kind of feel pushed into it, but at the same time, these are thoughts in your head, so you don't realize, because you don't know you're under mind control, you don't realize why that program is playing out. So they kind of trigger that, especially when they want to get rid of us, if we're getting too close to something. The older we get as well, the programming tends to break down and they're not able to keep fine tweaking it as much as they used to. I do also think this kind of barrels into the awakening process that's going on now, because they are largely trying to control this process, because so many of us are naturally awakening, and the naturally awakened ones that are here with that kind of purpose, whether it be exposing the truth, healing, you know, whatever that may be, they're the ones they're trying to stop, because we're the ones that shine the light, which expose the dark. And of course, you know, they don't want that. I know they are exposing things, and a lot of people don't understand where I'm coming from when I kind of say how Q and stuff are a psyop. Well, people will say to me, but they're exposing. Well, no, they're exposing half truths. The whole trafficking thing that's going on right now with the new movie, there is that kind of aspect that goes on, but there's a lot more to it that's not getting talked about. This runs in families. There's fertility cults. There's children that are purposely born into this. They don't get trafficked like that. They're put into families that will handle families, that will raise them and bring them to all these events. You know, that kind of side of trafficking doesn't get spoken about. I did say I would be talking about this more, kind of my experience of what it was like, not focusing on rituals, but focusing on actually how it is and why you don't realize what's happening. Like, I went to normal school and things like that, but I was still being trafficked high up in the elite, in lower level circles, in Butlins, you know, all these things were still going on, but I seemingly had this normal life. So yeah, this, what seems to be the dark night of the soul, does trigger that suicide thing. We start doing that. A lot of times we can break through that program. I also think because it is a spiritual awakening at the same time, you're getting that strength from your awakening to kind of fight it and beat it. And that's something inside you that's telling you, you probably shouldn't be doing this. That's your soul. That's because we're starting to awaken now to why we came here and what we need to do. Like the lady that asked me to do this video on targeted individuals, she is the most loveliest woman you would ever meet, right? Every day she is fighting just to keep her sanity, to not feel fear, to not feel sad and down why all this has happened to her. You know, she's beating all that, but then at the same time, she's exposing everything she's been through, researching constantly all day, every day, sharing all this information with everyone, and she thinks she's soulless. well, she's got a heart, so she can't be soulless. And this is what I kind of keep trying to make her see, that, you know, she does. It's going to make me get upset now. She does. She's lovely. And, you know, a lot of us do go through that. I went through it too. You know, when you're brought up thinking you're worthless and you're here for no reason, and people are trying to bump you off or encouraging you to commit suicide and ruining your life and taking everything away, you know, it does kind of make you feel like, well, why was I even born? But that's why, because we've got a heart and we've got a soul, and it doesn't matter what we go through, we're still there for other people. We don't turn into the abusers. And we want to make things better. We want to make humanity better. And that's where that drive comes from. So, yeah, I will equate that with a dark night of the soul. And then becoming a targeted individual from that point is because you've gone through this awakening now. They need to keep an eye on what you're doing. Like, I don't get any interviews with Q, and things like that, because I know I'm on a list. They initially all want to, and then it'll come to it and it just doesn't happen. I won't say who. There is one in the UK though, and quite a few in America. A few other of you, if you've, you know, gone to do an interview, will probably have noticed that as well. And then I go to other people that I know are awake because they're awake, not because they're following cue or a narrative or whatever, you know, and they're happy to do it. Even had one person who did it, and he was asked by the police to take it down, and that video disappeared. I've managed to keep one out now, I believe, maybe two. But yeah, they do get removed. So, you know, I'm kind of targeted in that way, but also spiritual as well. And the lady I was talking about, she's targeted by her neighbours and things, people parking outside the house trying to intimidate her. I've had to sit on the phone with her on video call before, when there was a threat on her life. Thankfully, nothing happened, but she went public. She put a massive post out. They obviously knew that I was on this video call with her at the time, and, you know, she's still doing all right, thankfully, and that was a few weeks ago. So, you know, it can happen for a multitude of reasons, but just don't let it stop you. We've just got to keep pushing forward. So if there is anything you would like to ask me, you can comment below. If you want to do it privately, you can message me on Facebook, or email me in the description below, the contact details. Please use the Stronger, Wiser, Better at outlook.com email address though at the minute, because I am having trouble with the other one. So I'll get that sorted and update everyone when that's done. It's been a bit of a nightmare couple of weeks really, which is, you know, why it's taken me so long to get this video out. I hope that wasn't too rambly. I did kind of do that on a whim. I just wanted to get it done while I felt like I've got a bit of energy today to do it. I have also been asked to do an Alice in Wonderland programming video, like how that works, and the different aspects of the program and how that works in the mind control. So I do plan on doing that in this next week. And we also have the podcast on cults coming up as well. So we'll get there. So as I say, I hope that all made sense. Any questions, let me know. Any requests, let me know. Any questions, feel free to contact me, and I will see you in the next video. Enjoy your day.